So I believe this article is a little bit older, but I noticed it was still at the top of the list because it's sort of leading into what's going on right now. So what's going on right now is a government shutdown, and both political sides are blaming one another for not coming to an agreement. And the one who really was in charge with shutting things down is this administration, and they want to blame the left, which is Democrats. And I believe they couldn't come to an agreement. So the last I heard about this, they said there was no agreement as of now in sight, and that they were going to go ahead and lay off federal workers, which it's right around the holidays, so it's creating a lot of chaos. And the other thing that is more pressing is I was seeing this on my phone and various places where it stated that the White House is getting a lot of death threats, and that somebody posted pictures of judges and pictures of different people they wanted to execute or assassinate. So this is what we're seeing them say. Now, allegedly, these are the things that are supposedly going on now. What I noticed, there was some protest. I believe it must have led into the weekend in Oregon and Chicago, because the Trump administration deployed the National Guard into those cities. And Trump, he paraphrasing on what he said, that Oregon is in trouble, and there's a lot of I guess it's supposed to be for a crime crackdown. And then I've been hearing other people who are natives of Oregon saying there isn't anything going on. And then there's a judge whom he actually appointed saying that what he's saying is not really happening the way he's claiming that it is. But it's riling up the people who are residents of Oregon and residents of the Chicago area, deploying National Guard to spook the citizens. And it's like it's poking a lion. It's like you're instigating something that isn't happening, is what I'm hearing. And I foresaw this month's coming. The trajectory of it is that it's going to embolden people who are going to fight back, and they're going to be more highly aggressive about how they fight back. So it already has begun, where there's the death threats allegedly towards White House members. There was an SUV that rammed an ICE agent SUV, and they ambushed them. And I'm hearing that they are highly weaponized with ammunition, this group, and that they shot a woman. I don't know what her name is, but there was a big protest behind a lot of what has been going on. But this woman, she was wielding, they say, an assault style rifle, so AR-15 as I believe that they said it was. So these people have gotten to the point where they are getting now emboldened, they're getting aggressive, they're getting fed up with National Guard being deployed in their cities. So this was back right here. This wasn't even in August. I believe this was in July that this article came out. And so it talked about how this was back January, the picture that was taken of President Trump. It said, "Stop fanning these flames. Judges say White House needs to tone down the attacks." So remember, I was mentioning that in another video. And so I believe this article is still up because it has ignited these death threats. And it says that's where they're getting this thing about countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. And a lot of this too comes right after what happened with Charlie Kirk. So I feel like there's a lot of fear going on. So they say that there is also some pictures that were posted with a bounty on the heads of people that are members of the White House. Now I did hear that, and as a matter of fact, hold on one second. I know that I was looking at it and I was like, wow, it's gone to this extreme. So yeah, so I believe, okay, so here's an article that I was seeing. Okay, so I'm gonna look it up. So let me read this one. So the Secretary of Treasury and the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security. So political violence. So by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution, the laws of the U.S. of America, I hereby direct the following: domestic terrorism and organized political violence, heinous assassinations, and other acts of political violence in the U.S. have dramatically increased in the recent years. So even in the aftermath of the horrifying assassination of Charlie Kirk, some individuals who adhere to the alleged shooter's ideologies embraced and cheered this evil murder while actively encouraging more political violence. This was preceded by the 2024 assassination of a senior healthcare executive. In 2022, the assassination attempt against Supreme Court Justice Barrett Kavanaugh. Sorry, I couldn't see it. I was thinking of the other woman who is a part of the SCOTUS. So Brett Kavanaugh had an assassination attempt against him. 2 separate assassination attempts against my own life in less than 3 months took place during the 2024 presidential election cycle. Riots in LA, Portland reflect a more than 1,000% increase in attacks on the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE officers since January 21, 2025, compared to the same period last year. Just yesterday, a shooting targeted an ICE facility in Dallas resulted in multiple casualties. Separate anti-police and criminal justice riots have left many people dead and injured and inflicted over $2 billion in property damage nationwide. The political violence is not a series of isolated incidents and does not emerge organically. Instead, it is accumulation of sophisticated organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, and violence designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity, change or direct policy outcomes, and prevent the functioning of democratic society. A new law enforcement strategy that investigates all participants in these criminal and terroristic conspiracies, including the organized structures, networks, entities, organizations, funding sources, and predicate actions behind them, is required. These campaigns often begin by isolating and dehumanizing specific targets to justify murder or other violent action against them. They do so through a variety of fora, including anonymous chat forums, in-person meetings, social media, and even educational institutions. So these campaigns then escalate to organized doxing, where the private and identifying information of their targets, such as home addresses, phone numbers, and other personal information, is exposed to the public with an explicit intent to encourage others to harass, intimidate, or violently assault them. As in the case of several ICE agents in LA being doxxed, the goal of these campaigns can be an obstruction the operation of the federal government, as well as the aid and abet criminal activity federal government is lawfully pursuing. So these campaigns are coordinated and perpetrated, that is, by actors who have developed a comprehensive strategy to achieve specific policy goals through radicalization and violent intimidation. So it goes on more and more and more and more. So it goes all the way down to here, and it lists everything. So if you want to read it, this is on President Donald Trump's White House. So I just read part of it. So they are on this campaign to crack down in cities they fear that are a part of terrorist organizations, is what they claim. It seems like that people on the other side are saying nothing's going on in these cities, that they need to deploy National Guard, but it is being done. And then I saw an article with Kristi Noem saying that there was a bounty out for certain political pundits, people that are in the White House, that the cartel could take them out. So this is getting really violent, you guys. I would say this: anybody that's involved in protests, be aware that it has gone to this extreme, that those protests are not, they may start off peaceful, but the people that are bad actors are people that might try to agitate the situation to make people more upset, will come out there purposefully to get something started. And we don't know who these people are. They get out there and then they rile up people, and then people are already upset because what I'm hearing is they're supposed to be laying off federal workers in mass, and this comes around the holiday months. So this is not good. Couldn't come at any worse time ever with what is going on, because this is the holiday season that we're going into. We're in fall, and so a lot of people probably have plans in mind. President Trump threatens to lay off thousands of federal employees if budget deal is not made. Trump administration rehires federal employees laid off by Doge. Okay, so I believe that's where all this had came in at. So now that they're doing the government shutdown, those people that had to come back to work are now going to be laid off or maybe terminated altogether. So it says it's frankly evil. This is out of MSN.com. Congressman rips Trump plan to lay off employees during a shutdown. Democratic Congressman Sean Casten of Illinois rips President Donald Trump's plan to lay off federal employees during the government shutdown. So there's a lot of fighting back and forth. It is getting crazy. And so I'm just kind of letting you guys know that this thing is not getting any better. So this was back when he was supposed to, I was seeing that he was supposed to rehire all those people that got cut. But shortly after he was told to rehire all those people, it says stop the purges. You see the federal workers, thank you, Fed workers, staying strong. Other people that are allies of them, family members probably, friends, people just on the outside who see what's going on. So it's so chaotic now. the shutdown happens. So what happens in the shutdown? The people you say that are supposed to be rehired back are now told that they will be laid off weeks before Thanksgiving and all of the other holidays that people spend family time with. Even if you're not a person that, celebrates holidays, but, a lot of people will, visit family members and participate in family activities just the same. So it's really sad, So this is what, is coming. So basically, that what I was telling you, this is something else. There's a lot of ads. So I saw it on the side here. The feds actually shot this woman in Chicago. Okay. So this woman, let's get into this a little more, because this is what I saw. This is where you see that people are now starting to get tired of all of this, and they're starting to become more aggressive. So it says the feds, they shot a woman. This was in Chicago after allegedly being rammed or boxed in by cars. So this is sort of some still frame of it. And so they shot the woman, and I believe they're holding her. So federal agents shot a woman in Brighton Park neighborhood on Chicago's southwest side Saturday morning. This happened after they became boxed in by vehicles, according to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So the woman, as well as a man whom authorities say was involved in the chaos, were facing charges. This was on Sunday morning. So Department of Homeland Security originally said that the shooting happened while agents were patrolling the Broadview, where the department has a U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement facility that has been the site of an ongoing protest that's gone on there, and there's been some clashes between agents and demonstrators. But officials later confirmed the incident happened near 40th Street and Kedzie Avenue in Chicago. So patrolling agents were rammed by vehicles, boxed in 10 cars, according to the statement of Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said this. So DHS, Department of Homeland Security, said agents were unable to move their vehicle and got out of the car, according to these officials. And they said that one of the drivers of the car boxing them in had a gun, which the agency said it was a semi-automatic weapon. So DHS said the agents opened fire, striking the driver, who they said was the woman. So federal prosecutors said the agent fired about 5 shots at the woman. So prosecutors said that she drove off, but paramedics found her and her car at a repair shop about a mile away, at which point she was taken to a hospital. So spokesperson of Sinai Health System said the woman was later released from the hospital. So the woman was in FBI custody on Saturday night, Department of Homeland Security said. So the U.S. Attorney's Office of Northern District, Illinois, and the FBI announced Sunday that the woman they gave her name. She's 40 years old. Her name is Miramar Martinez of Chicago, who was charged with forcibly assaulting and impeding the interfering with the federal law enforcement officer. And Department of Homeland Security claimed that the woman was named in a U.S. Customs Border Protection Intelligence Bulletin last week for doxing agents and posting threats against ICE online. So she posted some threats, and they have not released any further information on the claims. Later statements said that the ICE agents were responding to the shootings of someone followed them and rammed their vehicle in an attempt to run them off the road. This person was arrested and was in the custody of U.S. Homeland Security. Investigations last Saturday. Department of Homeland Security said so. Julia Ramirez, 12th, said that she saw a man taken by federal agents at a gas station as well. So since then, there has been one car that was in this gas station with a person, a U.S. citizen, that has now been detained, Ramirez said. So prosecutors said the man, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, he's 21, of Chicago, faces the same charges as Martinez does. So prosecutors alleged that he drove away after the collision with federal agents vehicles in Brighton Park, but was found by law enforcement in his car at a gas station about half a block away. So DHS added that an ICE vehicle popped a tire and was mobbed, and the law enforcement had to abandon the vehicle for their own safety. So people are starting to get more aggressive. It may not be all the protesters themselves, but there's other people that are more militant and more aggressive out there. So if you're in these protests, you need to be aware of that if you don't want to get hurt, if you don't want something to happen to you simply because you've shown up to a protest, but other people are a little bit more fiery, more aggressive. They're from organized groups that are outside of the protesters. You have to be aware that this could go down, and if they shoot into a crowd, anybody could get hurt. So I foresaw this coming, that it would get a little more violent at these organizations that get together, and you don't know what other side organizations are there that you may not even be affiliated with them, but they're allies of protesters, but then they're a little more radical, if you get what I'm saying. So, but it was coming down the pike. It was coming down the pike, because look at all of the executive orders that have been happening. Look at all of the vitriol back and forth. It's like a tennis ball court. All of these issues, political violence is way up. And let me say this. I'm just putting out there what is now being revealed, that it's getting intense, and it's not going to stop. It's going to get more intense. So I'm foretelling you of something I'm really fearing that is coming down the road, that these protests won't be protests anymore. Some people are going to no longer get out there, but the ones who will get out there are going to be highly aggressive. They're going to be more militant, and they're going to fight back, because they don't see any other way but doing that. And I believe that we're heading down that rabbit hole because of what's going on. And so there's other groups out there that we're unaware of, which I fear they're just kind of lying in wait. And now it's gotten to this point. So it says that mobs are now attacking ICE agents. The law enforcement has to abandon the vehicle for their own safety. So Department of Homeland Security said the vehicle was significantly damaged. So DHS said that several U.S. Custom Border Protection law enforcement officers were sent to the hospital for various injuries. So U.S. Homeland Security Kristi Noem has deployed special operation teams to restore law and order, according to the Department of Homeland Security. So protests erupt at the scene of the shooting. So when this lady was shot at, it ignited protesters. And so some of these protesters, they start off really calm and peaceful, but it's like striking a match. If people are, or their emotions are already high, and now you're claiming that you're going to lay off thousands of federal workers, what path are we on here? So, I mean, you couldn't even begin to think that these things are going to be like mild or less aggressive. They're going to be more heightened, more emotion, more aggression. And now you're shooting at people. So that is going to draw a more violent crowd of folks, especially. So it says all morning into the afternoon of Saturday, there were tense moments between agents and protesters yelling. Objects were thrown at them. Officers were spraying pepper balls. Groups of federal agents kept arriving on the scene, 4 to 5 undercover federal agents in SUVs. They made their way through the crowd and go underneath tape. Each time they came through the protesters, they fought back. See? So if they are zooming through the crowd of protesters, they are doing it every 5 minutes to continue to irritate the irritation on people. So it's almost like they want people to be provoked. That's what I'm thinking. It's getting to that point where they kind of want to rev up folks. But it goes on to say, this was from ALD Ramirez said this, okay? So at one point, a military vehicle pulled up near the protesters and an agent drew his gun from the roof, pointing it at protesters below. So let me read that again. At one point, a military vehicle pulled up near the protesters and the agent drew his gun from the roof, pointing at the protesters below. So now there's the threat of protesters being shot at. So now they got the SWAT truck here, like we are like the military now, and this is like a war zone. This was said by Gabriel. So Department of Homeland Security accused Chicago police of not helping during the incident. So a lot of officers have said that they don't want to get involved in a lot of these skirmishes. So it just makes everything more heightened. So Department of Homeland Security also said, it's in a statement, there is a growing crowd and we are deploying special operations to control the scene. So Chicago police said in a statement they responded. This was on the 3900 block of South Kedzie Avenue. This is in the city of Brighton Park neighborhood for a report of a person that was shot. And this is this woman that was shot. So Chicago police said that they responded to document the incident and to maintain safety and traffic control, but are not involved in the incident or investigation. So CPD, Chicago Police, said federal authorities are investigating the shooting and all further inquiries regarding the circumstances of this shooting should be referred to the appropriate federal authorities. That is pretty much the article about the incident that recently happened with the woman and the shooting. And so this is what's going on with these little gatherings are starting to get more aggressive. And I felt like it was a slow burn, but now we're at that point where it's like a powder keg and it's just waiting to blow. And by them zooming the cars and pointing guns at people, you're just revving up, you're poking the lion. And that's what I've said. And I believe the lion has been poked multiple times to where now he is waking up. And now it's at a point where there's no going back. And once you upset people and you get them to the point where they're ready to be aggressive, there is no toning down anything, because you've already brought it from 0 to 100. And so this is where we're at. And so people, you need to be safe, be careful, because I feel like this is, some of this too might possibly be on purpose. And then that's my feeling, because I feel like there's something going on that we're unaware of, that it could escalate into more violence, more violent protest standoffs. We might even see some mass riots that could break out in some of these cities because of pointing guns at protesters and revving them up, running cars, SUV cars, ICE agent cars, or cars through crowds of protesters, because you could hit protesters. So it is getting violently aggressive. So, I mean, just take a look at what's going on. You know, some people wanted to come on my page and be mad at me for telling the truth. And you got to look at what's going on. I mean, even if you're, no matter what side you're on, these things are happening. So you knew it was going in that direction. It was going to go in that direction because of what's happening. And people are, a lot of emotions are high. A lot of tension is high. And it's just a matter of time when it's going to explode. And I believe the pot has been simmering. And it's boiling over right now. That we're at that stage. But when the pot finally boils all the way over and that lid pops off, oh boy, that, I feel like that's where we're headed. This is not getting any better, and it's not that I'm trying to make it sound like that. It's what trajectory this is going. And when you see these incidences, these are no lie. This is what's going on. And when you see people that are ready to get out there and fight, and then you see things like this posted, you know, these things did happen. But the way he's saying this, he's making certain people who have basically said a lot of vitriol to people of color, you know, they're now looked at as a martyr in certain groups. And it's upsetting people when you have people getting laid off after a judge told you to rehire them. And then you got this woman who gets killed, almost nearly killed. She wasn't killed, but she almost would have been killed. And I guess she had a weapon, they say. They allegedly said she had a weapon. And then you had, this was before it led up to this, a group of federal judges decried a series of politically charged attacks from the White House Thursday, saying that the broadsides are emboldening bad actors and leading to death threats and political intimidation. And now it's at a level that I honestly have to say is different. We're seeing things coming out from the top down, and from the White House spokespeople calling us crazy leftists, unconstitutional judges. Esther Salas, U.S. District Court judge in New Jersey, said that the Judicial Forum hosted a group of Speak Up for Justice or something like that, to that effect. While judges have faced vitriol from both ends of political spectrum, Salas and the Obama appointee at the forum urged that the White House in particular to tone down its rhetoric. Her 20-year-old son Daniel was killed while celebrating his birthday. This was July 2020 shooting by a gunman who posed as a delivery driver. The attack was aimed at his mother from a disgruntled attorney. And so since returning to the Oval Office in January, President Donald Trump has trained his ire on judges seen as stymieing his political agenda. He and allies lashed out against the likes of the U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, who had blocked the administration's effort to swiftly deport Venezuelan nationals to El Salvador. Threats against federal judge skyrocket. It has skyrocketed in weeks after Trump re-entered office. So it's sounding like a lot of this is just getting worse and worse and worse. So the administration's barbs have continued now over 6 months into the president's second term. On Monday, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced her office had filed a misconduct complaint against Boasberg, the chief judge on the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. The fix is so easy in some ways, said Salas, but what we need is our political leaders from the top down to stop fanning flames, so stop using irresponsible rhetoric. So to stop referring to judges as corrupt and biased and monsters that hate America. And so conservative jurists have also faced high-profile threats in recent years. A California man pleaded guilty earlier this year to attempting to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in 2022. So at Thursday's forum, none of the judges mentioned Trump by name, but several noted that the political environment has become much, much more charged since the start of his second term. So it has gotten crazy. So this is where we're at. So it doesn't look good. I don't see this stopping anytime soon right now, but I do have some feelings, things that could come down the pike, and I'm not going to share those, but I could tell you they're not good. This is where we're at.